Public consultation starts on a rubbish levy. Proposed mandatory tests for suspected drug abusers. And an Iranian offer at the UN to engage in nuclear talks.
Police may be authorised to carry out mandatory drug testing on suspected abusers under certain conditions in the future. The Action Committee Against Narcotics has put forward the idea for public consultation. The aim of the rescue drug testing scheme is to identify hidden drug abusers as early as possible and refer them to social workers or healthcare professionals. Kirti Nanwani reports.
According to government statistics in the first half of the year, newly reported drug abusers had on average been addicted for 4.6 years when their problems came to the attention of the authorities. But police's hands are tied because they can only prosecute someone for drug possession if the drugs are found on the person. So abusers can get away with it, for example, by throwing the drugs on the floor during a raid. The Action Committee Against Narcotics has now proposed to allow trained officers to carry out mandatory drug tests on suspected abusers under the rescue drug testing scheme. The conditions are that drugs are found at the venue and there are reasonable grounds to suspect the person is on drugs.
We got standardized instructions to make sure that the person involved understand the procedures, and then we got a tape recording so that we can have objective evidence in case there is any dispute. And then for those who are under the age of 18, we suggest that there should be an independent third party. Now, of course, we can have parents, guardians, or some people even suggest that we can have a pool of independent third party, say including the justice of the peace, social workers, reporters, etc.
A suspected abuser will have to respond to some simple questions, asked to walk in a straight line, and failing those, he or she will be asked to provide a urine sample for testing. The entire process will take place in a police station. It will be videotaped and the footage may be used as evidence in court. First-time offenders may be given a second chance and be referred to social workers or doctors, but repeat offenders will face prosecution. Social workers doubt if such a scheme is useful.
Our frontline experience, most of the youth, they using drugs at their home or their friend's home. Not a lot of them using drugs in the disco, the rave party.
The rescue drug testing scheme will be subject to 4 months of public consultation. The Action Committee Against Narcotics will then come up with a detailed plan for a second round of consultation before summarizing its findings and making recommendations for scrutiny by the Legislative Council. Kirti Nandwani, TVB News.
Turning overseas now, Iran's new president has told the United Nations General Assembly that he's prepared to engage in meaningful talks over his country's nuclear program. Hassan Rouhani also says he does not seek to increase tensions with the United States. US President Barack Obama has cautiously embraced the Iranian leader's overtures as the basis for a possible nuclear deal. But failure to arrange a simple handshake between the two leaders underscored a long distrust that will be hard to overcome. Alan Buckner reports.
Hassan Rouhani's speech signaled Iran's return to a more measured, if still resolute, approach to foreign policy. But his speech also delivered the message that diplomatic warming will not come quickly or easily. And while Rouhani did touch briefly on what he described as Palestine's deprivation and subjugation, he ended his speech with references not only to the Quran, but also the Bible and the Torah. Israel, however, was not pacified.
Iran thinks that soothing words and token actions will enable it to continue on its path to the bomb. Like North Korea before it, Iran will try to remove sanctions by offering cosmetic concessions while preserving its ability to rapidly build a nuclear weapon at a time of its choosing.
U.S. President Barack Obama, for his part, said he was encouraged by Iran's more moderate approach.
And given President Rouhani's stated commitment to reach an agreement, I am directing John Kerry to pursue this effort with the Iranian government in close cooperation with the European Union, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, and China. The roadblocks may prove to be too great, but I firmly believe the diplomatic path must be tested.
Outside the UN building, a protest was being held opposing any dialogue.
There's no chance that the regime is going to give up its quest for nuclear weapons. And we know that Hassan Rouhani himself, 10 years ago when he was the chief nuclear negotiator, used the appearance of negotiations and conciliation to buy time at that point for the Iranian program to overcome a number of scientific and technical glitches. So Rouhani has used this playbook before.
Alan Buknia, TVB News.
US and Russia negotiators remain at odds on a UN Security Council resolution that would hold Syria accountable if it fails to hand over its chemical weapons arsenal. US Secretary of State John Kerry met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the United Nations on Tuesday. While progress was reported in some areas, they were unable to reach an agreement on the text of the resolution. President Obama wants the UN to take military action if Syria fails to live up to its vow to turn over the chemical weapons. The worry from the US side is that Russia will veto any resolution that contains even an implicit threat of military force.
The president of Kenya has declared that those who attacked the Westgate Mall in Nairobi have been defeated. He said yesterday more than 70 people were killed in the bloodshed. But the death toll is expected to go up over fears more bodies could be found inside the mall. A final push to end the deadly four-day siege in Nairobi. Kenyan authorities yesterday made the move to bring to a close the standoff at the upscale Westgate Mall in one of the world's worst terror attacks in recent memory. The president of Kenya declared victory over the Al-Shabaab group blamed for the assault. He also revealed the human cost of the bloodshed. At least 61 civilians, 6 security forces and 5 militants dead, about 175 injured. And about a dozen people have been taken into custody. But the death toll is expected to go up because 3 floors in one part of the mall had collapsed during the final hours of the operation to end the siege, leaving an unknown number of bodies under steel and concrete.
As a nation, our head is bloodied but unbowed. The criminals found us unafraid, as we shall ever be. We cannot be conquered.
Despite Kenyatta's declaration, troops remain deployed at the mall. Security officials warn there may still be attackers inside. This survivor, meanwhile, recalled making a lucky escape.
Let me go. They said, we won't do anything to you. Go, because you have been shot already.
It sounds like you had an incredibly lucky escape.
Yeah. I was the first person to come out of Nakumatt, injured person. I don't think if anyone else had come out.
Well, I mean, you must still be in quite a lot of shock, I would imagine.
Yeah, the memory you can't forget. You know, we usually see it in the TV and movies. You wouldn't expect to see in reality. So just imagine what it was.
Today, Kenya began 3 days of mourning in memory of those killed. Flags all across the country flew at half-mast. The mall has now been sealed off, and forensic experts from other countries will be helping Kenyan authorities with their investigation. One focus would be on the identities of the assailants, amid reports that foreigners, including a number of Americans, had taken part in the attack. Back in Hong Kong now, and to our other main local story of the day. Throwing away your household rubbish may cost you on average $40 a month in future. The Council for Sustainable Development has launched a public consultation on a levy. Households that throw out rubbish below a standard amount may get a discount or be exempted altogether. Evelyn Leung reports.
The more rubbish you throw away, the more you'll pay. Is that good incentive to reduce household waste? Some say they will separate the rubbish for recycling. This person says recycled rubbish in the United States will be disposed of separately. The Council for Sustainable Development today released a consultation document on this issue. This follows an Environmental Protection Department public consultation held earlier this year, in which more than half of the submissions supported a rubbish levy. In the consultation document, the Council introduces two different charging methods. The first, a weight-based mechanism where households are charged based on the weight of their trash. The second is volume-based mechanism where households are charged by the volume of what they throw out or by the collection frequency. The public will also have to decide whether households should pay for their own rubbish or all the tenants in one building should be charged as a whole. The document also touches on commercial and industrial waste. Also, the public will have to decide how much should be charged. The document suggests the Taipei and Seoul model of charging domestic waste at a rate of around 10 cents per litre. If this model is adopted, each household would be charged $30 to $60 a month.
Each model, as I pointed out, has got their pros and cons, has got the difficulties and as well as their beauties. Therefore, we need the public to give us their view on these three models. And actually, everybody agrees it's not one model can fit all. Therefore, it's possible to have a combination of this different model and which fits each of the estate or each of the household.
Ng Shu-san of the incorporated owners of Bohemia Garden in Cheung Kwan-o believes if they are charged by each building, there will be an increase of rubbish. Some people might feel they are all paying the same amount, so why not throw out more rubbish? Or some residents may think they can throw out a lot of trash and no one will find out it's theirs, he said. The consultation period will start at the end of September and will last for 4 months. After the consultation period ends in January, the Council will look into the opinions and suggestions collected before submitting a report with recommendations to the government by the end of next year. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
And on the mainland, a man has been sentenced to death by a court in Beijing for killing a 2-year-old girl by throwing her to the ground. The case stemmed from an argument over a parking space. 39-year-old Han Lei was convicted of murder. The incident in Beijing in July shocked the country. The court heard the man knock down the victim's mother over a dispute involving a roadside parking space. He said the baby carriage was in the way. He then picked up the girl and threw her to the ground. She died a few days later in hospital. Han said in court he thought he was just throwing a shopping cart to the ground, not a carriage.
Officials in Pakistan say the number of dead in yesterday's killer earthquake that rocked the southwestern part of the country has now topped 300. Hundreds were injured and many more were left homeless. The magnitude 7.7 tremor hit a remote district in Baluchistan province. To give an idea just how powerful it was, officials say the earth moved with enough force to create a small island visible off the southern coast. And it was felt as far away as New Delhi, some 1,200 kilometers away. Aid is now on the way. A convoy of Pakistani army trucks left Karachi today, carrying supplies for those in need.
And still ahead in the news. Timothy Tong grilled again by the Public Accounts Committee. New simplified procedures to merge MPF accounts. And legal aid for families of Lama Ferry disaster victims.